Google up.
And you're connected to NIC station 217, correct?
Connection 2. But 2 connections?
What the
NIC station 217.
Right.
Speed 54.0
and
megabits.
You should be good to go.
Yeah, not pulling nothing. Firefox or IE.
And I don't have Chrome.
Anything.
You guys are going to be bored in the first few minutes of this call. Yeah, I'm trying to read this without glasses.
Good luck with that.
17. You hit execute. That's good. You're connected. We'll start with a fresh browser. Nice job on cookies. Okay.
I actually copied it.
Firefox. Bam.
That's where I started.
Oh, that would have been perfect for the connecting speed.
Or not.
Or not. The plan. So Brandon, we're going to need you to come in on Saturday.
I have not.
Oh, you haven't? Oh.
Are you
Are you
Google
kidding me?
it?
You know what kind of frightened me though? He bears a striking resemblance.
Crap. Yeah, that's not going to work out. So funny. Jennifer Aniston was amazing in that movie. Yeah, what happened?
Hold on a second.
She was in an indie movie called The Good Girl.
That was really good.
She worked at a grocery store? Yeah, that was really good.
I need to call the help desk.
Uh-oh.
Sean, help.
Your laptop or?
Yeah, no, it's the state secretary. You're successfully logged into to the network. There shouldn't be any problem. That's what I'm thinking. I know I had a problem when I did this at home. I had to do an Ethernet connection to get to the internet. Then it worked. I don't know what to do with it. Probably. But what driver what?
Are we supposed to log in with our operating credentials?
If you want to, yeah.
Remote command.
I guess it depends on how fast you learn. I like to watch. If I'm doing it, I'm not like... Yeah. But if you want to do it as he's going through it... So anyway, everybody at Dave gets trained today. We're going to need that cookie back, Dave. He has a network connection, but nothing's loading, so...
Computer has it, because this has happened before, it's not unique here.
Okay, under there. Dave, Ivan, Dave. Everybody, Ivan, everybody.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we're going to have that cookie.
You ready, Adam? Finger down the throat. You can only look at them. You can't touch them.
I didn't touch that.
Since I'm sharing my screen, you're going to get to see my uber secret notes to make sure I don't miss anything I'm supposed to tell you.
Oh,
Bear with me. Yeah. Just for the...
What'd you do?
Reset your... Well, thank you, Ivan. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ivan Pointer. Let's give him a hand. We give him a cookie, but the man has lost like 40 pounds on our weight loss challenge. Freakishly. Oh, wait. Go to staging-sos.oregon.egov.com, and we'll just take it from there. And I guess we're ready to officially get started. Okay. First things first. Did it break? Do we not have nice things? Did it break?
There you go.
I suppose you're wondering why I called you all here today. I wanted to say that in a big meeting. Should be at the head of the program. Sean won the lottery and he's taking me with him. Whichever Sean can fight over which one. Kentucky. We're going to Kentucky. Oh, God, no. I escaped from there. All right, you're now looking at, hopefully, after we've loaded the actual Oregon.gov, Oregon SOS staging site. Now, complete with everything on this page is dynamically generated except for the latest news. Just wired in these pieces today. Yep. So, everything you see now, we have controls for in the back end except the latest news. We might have issues with that. We might have to talk about that later. That's a different conversation entirely. Just to bring you all up to speed about everything you need to know about SharePoint, the first thing you need to know, Dave's in, I could tell by the face.
Well, I saw notary and FSC.
Yep. Again, all this stuff now is dynamically driven through a list in the back end of SharePoint, and you guys are going to learn how to configure all this before the day's up. But to get started, one thing you need to always keep in mind about SharePoint is its roots as an intranet tool. So there's a lot of out-of-the-box stuff you get with SharePoint that's geared toward being part of an intranet. And when I say be part of an intranet, that means basically it's going to require a user to have to log in to use it. A lot of that out-of-the-box stuff is one of the more common calls we get. We've tried X web part, and it's prompting for a login. What am I doing? You're using a web part you shouldn't be using in your internet environment. So it's going to be a source for questions somewhere down the line. And I'm going to tell you, SharePoint started as an intranet tool. You can't use that. You're going to go, oh, gosh, darn it, I want to use it. And I'm going to say no. So basic building blocks of SharePoint. Well, first, let's start with how you actually log in. You've got that URL in front of you right now, and I've checked, and all of you all are added as owners to the site. If you'll add an authoring hyphen to the front of the staging and hit enter, you should be prompted with usernames and passwords and all this other fun stuff. Yeah, let's hope you remember your password. You might have some fun just following along at home with the screen if you can't. But the authoring hyphen URL is how you get into the authoring environment of SharePoint, or what I like to call like the back end of SharePoint. Even though it looks like the front end, you're really behind the scenes on the part that you can configure. Let me slide this over here so I can actually see my notes. I don't want to miss a point here. I have it all listed out. There's the basic building blocks of SharePoint. Is everybody logged in yet? Everybody get in?
Yes.
No issues?
Well, I logged in and now it's asking me to log in again.
Can we not have nice things? You may have entered the wrong password. If you think you're entering the wrong password, don't enter it too many times. You might lock yourself out. Theoretically, you're not supposed to do that, but we've seen it happen in the past. Let me get this out of the way. SharePoint, when you're in the authoring side, you can tell that the main difference is you'll see what's called the ribbon. How familiar is everybody with SharePoint? Ever seen the back end? Never seen the back end?
I've wandered through it.
How do you spell it?
Capital P. But whenever you're logged in or authenticated, you can't see the air quotes for you people playing at home. Whenever you're authenticated, you'll have the ribbon here with a list of options and a side actions menu. At the very least, a side actions menu. And you can quickly tell the difference between the two because of the big blue bar at the top. Everything is controlled administration-wise through the side actions menu. Your basic SharePoint site, it's not like your typical your flat website where you're used to having a flat file structure and everything just makes sense linearly. Welcome to SharePoint. It's not going to be like that really. It kind of makes sense linearly to some degree, but not really. You have two ways of accessing the structure of your site. One is to manage since we're recording this, through the Site Actions menu, your Manage Content and Structure link or your View All Site Content link. And what this one does is no matter where you are within the SharePoint site, when you click it, after an appropriate load time, you'll get this nice tree view of all the assets available throughout the entire site. Oh, and I am not normally one to use Manage Content and Structure. I prefer the View All Site Content view, which we'll show you in a minute. But I just wanted to point out that there's a couple of nice features when you're in Manage Content and Structure. You have a toolbar up here of all sorts of different options you could perform, like new sites, new pages. You could approve and reject things. But the coolest thing here is this view. You can go in and filter things that are checked out just to you, things that are pending approval, any document that's in draft, which is very handy because you're going to have an author someday that I made this change, it's not showing up, or I've put out an image and it's not showing up, and it might be an image that required somebody to approve it, and you can come in here quickly and track down what the cause is. So it's just a real handy shortcut. Plus, you get some other things you can do in Manage Content and Structure that I'll leave as an exercise for the students. But my favorite view is the View All Site Content. And the big difference between View All Site Content and Manage Content and Structure is whatever current site you're in at the time, that's when you view all site content, that's what you're seeing. And a word about how SharePoint is structured again, just to throw back. It's built of sites that contain document libraries and picture libraries, but libraries for just to lump them all together, lists, and the subsites that go with that site. And each of these subsites contains their own document libraries and lists and potential subsites, and on down and on down. And it all balloons out of the root site. When you're in the root site, you have a couple of special document libraries that go along with it. I prefer the View All Site Content view just because you get ribbon choices, and we'll get into a couple of lists here in a minute. Just out of the box, when you're in the root, this is where most of your fun is happening for your document libraries and stuff like that, unless there's something specific you have in a subsite, which we'll go over here in a second. There are some out-of-the-box. All of these are out-of-the-box document libraries that come with SharePoint. Don't delete them. They might have a purpose somewhere. You could add as many as you need by going to Create. And you can create any document library, any picture library, asset library, which I guess is just a generic other type library. Never used one. So you can create as many document libraries as you need here, but I like to use what SharePoint gives you out of the box if I can. When we had the Oregon V3 migration, when I say V3, I mean the current look and feel for most of Oregon agencies, all their stuff in TeamSite was stored in a special document, in a folder called Docs. So we ended up actually having to go in here and create a document library called Docs and stick all their stuff in there, so we maintained URL structure. But for the most part, otherwise, I like to just stick with what's here. The ones that you'll probably never deal with are customized reports, more of an intranet thing. Form templates, more of an intranet thing. Picture libraries, strangely enough, all your pictures are actually in this images document library. You can create customized picture libraries if you want. I've never found a really good web need for it, maybe in an intranet setting.
Does it deliver any different functionality?
Some, but again, intranet-y type functionality for the most part. You can make it anonymous access type. We'll get into anonymous access in a minute, but there's, you're not gaining anything in a web environment basically. For those of you webmasters out there who are going to be dealing with things, if you're looking at a URL of an image and you'll see it belongs to a /publishing images, that's actually the images document library. Why they don't call it publishing images here as well is beyond me. So when you can't find publishing images, it's actually images. You have a few out-of-the-box, let me go down to the list. Documents is where I suggest you store all your documents, and you can create subfolders in there, as many as you want. When you drill down in, you get these cool library tools where you can create new documents. Again, that's more of an intranet function. Just upload your PDFs or your Word documents. You can create new folders, which you're probably more likely to do. And then the other thing you'll probably deal with mostly with lists is you have this functionality over here for managing library settings. And that's where you can go in, and whether you have versioning turned on or off for the document library. When they mean versioning, let's just take a look at it. You could require, and this one is currently set to yes, everything that's uploaded will require approval and set off a workflow and require somebody to sign off on it. I highly suggest you don't do that. You're going to clog things up. You could set what's called versioning, which means like every time you upload a copy, you have to check in your new copy, and that way SharePoint keeps track of like later copies you have. That's up to you on whether you want to use it as a business case, but again, it could slow things down if people forget that they need to check things in, check things out. They might have the issue where they think they've uploaded something, it's not showing up, they forgot to check it in, or God forbid, it's a brand new document, they haven't checked it in, and it's prompting for a username and password. We usually tell most states, or most agencies, if they don't have a need to check in and out images and documents and things like that, don't do it.
We are planning on using workflow. It's a fairly simplified one, but someone originates the doc, someone has to review and approve it, and they can hit publish, and then the WIP team needs to be notified.
Right. Now, are you talking workflow for like if somebody needs to upload a document to the website to be used, when it gets approved, it becomes live on the site? I've got bad news for you. That type of workflow only works for pages in a publishing site. There's several different types of SharePoint sites.
Mm-hmm.
The one for a forward-facing website is what's called a publishing site, or a publishing site with workflow.
Mm-hmm.
Two flavors of the same thing. You can't set up in the document libraries an approval workflow like that on the documents. You can only set it up to where when you approve it, it triggers approval of the document. You still have to manually go in and approve the document after it's been approved through the workflow.
I can't quite envision that. I'd have to see the controls or something.
Yeah. Well, basically, you know how in a typical workflow, you upload it, it triggers a bunch of emails, everybody approves it, and after everybody clicks approve on the workflow, the document's now live. That's not how it works in SharePoint in a publishing site.
You actually have to log in.
Somebody has to log in. All it does, there's a special list called, let's go back and take a look. There's a special list called workflow tasks, I do believe. Yes, where it shows up in this list as approved. Now, you can set alerts on this list to see that it's been approved by everybody else, and then whoever is the main person knows they can go in and now approve that document to go live, but you don't get it automatically, not in a publishing site. That only happens in the Pages document library where your web pages are stored. So you can only set up that automagicness with web pages in a publishing. I know.
We'll work with it. Yeah, we'll make it work. We've got the Wild West, so we have to have some notifications, but it's a very simple scheme.
Yeah. We could probably make something to work with you. It's just...
I'll just show you
it's
the
not going to
diagram
be
I've
automatically.
drawn up, and
Yeah.
you'll see what I'm driving at, and we can figure out what's the best way.
As long as everybody understands there'll be an extra step involved when it comes to documents and things like that.
Well, that's what we'll present when we get there. We're not going to ask permission.
Yeah.
Someone's got to validate the code and confirm that the content is brand appropriate. So.
When you say Sean, I can always picture him having to do
Other
it.
Sean,
Ah.
different spelling.
You got help desk has to do it.
So, let's go back to our view offsite content. So basically, told you about the images, where the images are stored. Pages, this is a special document library where your web pages are stored. Each site has its own pages document library. If you're inside business, all its pages will be inside the business pages document library. If you're inside audits, they'll all be in there. These are all the ones that exist at the root level. So a lot of the About Us, utility nav type stuff is there. There's site collection documents. There's no real use for that in this environment. Site collection images, we keep a special folder called branding in there, and that's where all the branding images of your site are stored. And this is just a convention that we've come up with ourselves. It's a special document library that few people have access to, and it seems like the best place to store the images. Because you put it out in publishing images, anybody can change. That has their appropriate permissions can change. Secretary of State's photo, for instance. You don't want to have some hacked off person. Style library, pretty much what it sounds like, except that you also keep JavaScript in here. The three folders you'll be concerned with, and we'll go over these in a minute, are CSS, JS, and if you're really, really brave, the XSL style sheets. If you really want to get into the fun part of SharePoint. Some of your out-of-the-box lists that you'll never deal with are the content and structure reports. I was going to include workflow tasks in this, but apparently you're going to be dealing with workflow tasks a little more intimately than I thought. So there will be some interaction with this list. Reusable content is just what it sounds like. It's a place where you could add reusable content to use throughout the site. The reason I'm showing you this is that your copyright information, your footer address, your footer nav, and your utility nav are all in here. So utility nav, that's all pulling from the same reusable content. And I just learned how to do this, so you're the first guys able to do this. This is your footer nav, this is your address information, and your copyright. So 2014, you'll want to go in there and change that to a 14. Or, for instance, like I know in the utility nav I have a bunch of bad links. I have them about HTML. You could go in and edit that item. This is the actual HTML right here, the reusable HTML. Click on it, click my link tool, go in there and make that a .aspx, and I'm not going to do them all. Save this as examples. Save. Now, reusable HTML does need to be approved when you change it, so things won't show up until you go in and approve it. I don't do this much in staging because there's just no need, but when you're in production and you make changes, you're given the option to comment. Don't assume you're going to remember what the heck you were thinking later on. Add some useful comment in there, like fix broken links, and be specific if you want. But now when we go back, and this should be across every page, Meet Kate should work now.
I got another L into FOC.
All right, what did I do?
It's two L's. It's French.
Did I?
I added it.
Oh.
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh, somebody's in the advanced class. All right. Nice. Back to our other. We'll go over these other lists in a minute. We'll let Jacqueline go over them. She's well ahead of us now. And then you get into your sub-sites as well. So again, just basic overview of SharePoint. It's basically libraries and lists. Actually, when you get down to the basis of it, everything in SharePoint is a list. Even the document libraries are lists. They're just special kinds of lists. But that's neither here nor there. For those of you who want to be advanced later on, it sounds like you know what you're talking about. So libraries, lists, sites. So, and then you get into those sub-sites, libraries, lists, potentially more sites, and you can go on down. Let's see.
So can we also view all pending documents, not just created by me? Change that view.
If you go into Manage Content and Structure, and you look at pending approval,
Yeah.
I think that only gives you the one that you're available.
Sorry, just see
Yeah.
associated with me, and I think as admins and sheriffs, we might want a bigger view.
I'm not sure if we got that out of the box.
Okay.
I will have to see if it's possible to configure it to where that's,
Yeah. not like top priority right now.
Right.
But that might be an enhancement we end up using.
Okay. But honestly, I've tried to find a way to configure that drop-down before, and I've never been very successful. That doesn't mean there's not a way to do it. There's always a way to hack it to make it work. And it's a good feature. If we can figure out a way to do it, it needs to be there. There are other things within your site actions menu other than the ways to view all your content. You've got the options to create new pages here. So you, like, whenever you create a new page, it always creates it in the pages folder of the site that you're in. So if I was in business and I hit new page, it's going to go into the businesses pages document library. Right now I'm in the root. If I went ahead and created this page, it would create it in the root of pages document library. You give it some happy name and you can continue on down that path. We won't. You can create new sites here, so if I wanted to add a site on other than the top 5 task sites we have, like if I was creating a division site, I would do that here as well. And you'll notice there's your choice of publishing site with workflow again. Basically give it a title like divisions. I can't see what I'm typing here. I should probably look at this screen. And you give it the URL name, part of the name. And then I'm sorry, go ahead.
We talked about that briefly, setting up little sub-sites versus folders, and there isn't really any great benefit to doing it that way.
It depends on what you're doing. Yeah. If
You have a site or a subject of information that needs its own navigation, then you probably want to go into a sub-site. Outside of that, new folder is probably all right.
yeah.
With the example we used, the exhibit, is that an example? State Archives exhibit.
State Archives exhibits, I could see that actually being its own sub-site, for instance, yeah.
This is my very blue book.
Blue Book, yeah. Now, whenever you create a new site, you have the option of making it use the permissions of the parent site, which I highly recommend, and if you need to break it later, go ahead. But if it's something that just absolutely, like if you're creating an intranet site within SOS, you could give it unique permissions and then go in and fiddle them from there.
So you could create an intranet as a sub-site in here?
Oh yeah, you could create an intranet, lock it down, remove what's called anonymous access from it, and then people would have to know the URL, and they would be prompted for the username and password, just like if you were going to the authoring site. But we're not going to create any new site. We're just going to cancel our way out of that one.
And doing that would require licensing, correct?
No,
No.
You're free to go crazy.
Huh? I don't know.
At least that's,
We had,
Capture that in.
Yeah.
I have never gotten Edit SharePoint Designer to work well, but that's probably because I refuse to use IE. Site permissions is where we can configure the site permissions, and then there's site settings. We'll get into site permissions here specifically in a minute, but site settings is where you do all your damage. With great power, guys, comes great responsibility. You could really have some fun if you get in here and start messing around.
You administer the permissions to this area on a granular level or not?
Yeah. I mean, if you're a site owner, you're going to see a lot more in here than if you're just like a regular author. An author might be able to go in and view things, for instance, but not change things. It's all role based. Right. Right. So. Well, this is where all the fun happens.
is there somewhere where we can print out the permissions, the names of the roles and the level of access?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second, and I'll show you where they are. So.
Thinking one about the document.
Yeah, but just to point out a few things under galleries. If you know what you're doing and you're creating new page layouts, site columns and site content types, you'll mess with those. These other things you'll probably never mess with. Site administration, only if we've accidentally set your site to some other time zone, would you ever want to go in and change regional settings, but all this other stuff you probably will not mess with. Look and feels where you'll be doing most of your action. User permissions, you'll be doing a lot of your work in there. if there's a site feature that is installed that you feel like you're going to need, if you know what site features are, you might use that link. I would call first before you try to enable anything and ask what it does. Because you're going to think of things you want SharePoint to do. And you're going to read about it in some blog, and I'd love it if our SharePoint does that, and all I had to do was go in and manage and turn on that site feature. Oops, everything's broken. Let's ask first, just to make sure that we haven't done something, or we're not about to do something.
Full backup for the site.
That's probably a ROM question about our infrastructure, and I don't know. Guys, do you have any idea? I think it's we're going to be like dual hosted in the 2 locations in the country eventually by the time they're through with our server upgrades. I think it's at least going to be a fairly regular basis that things are backed up, but I don't know the exact schedule.
So it's document versioning or documents you can roll back, right? So
If you have it turned on your document library, yes. And that's when you go into your versioning settings, you can specifically turn that on or off. And again, though, it's like if that's going to require somebody to check out and check in a document before they upload it. So that's it, but that's a procedural thing for you guys to decide. It's going to typically we counsel state agencies not to do it because a lot of people aren't as well organized as you are, to be frank about it, and it just causes more headache for them than it does, than they get benefit out of it. So.
Okay.
Report services, again, you'll probably never mess with this. So again, look and feel, user permissions is where you'll spend most of your life.
Reporting services, what is that exactly?
Honestly, I don't know.
Could it be-
I never mess with it.
Good answer.
I just know.
Anything about usage or performance, is that, or
You're probably going to
all
get.
our analytics will be on Google?
Yeah, you're going to get more useful analytics out of Google for sure.
Okay, what are the site web analytics reports and collection web analytics reports? Is that related to Google Analytics?
No, it's SharePoint's own little.
Okay.
And
I'm curious about what you might be measuring.
you can get some basic stuff like number of page views and stuff like that, but I think you're going to get and you can tell I've been in the site left and right, and we really don't have any data there.
But yeah, I'm going to bookmark that we will be talking about the analytics implementation later. Schedule.
Like to point out, delete this site, don't use it. You will have that ability. If you do accidentally delete something, there is a recycle bin per site that you see that you can find stuff in, and if you dig into the recycle bin, you'll notice that I've deleted things that I don't need as I'm developing the site. So always check there first. If something happened that recycle bin gets emptied, and I think ROM runs a script that empties them out on a regular basis so it doesn't pile up, there's a site collection admin recycle bin that he has access to that things hang out there a little longer. So if you've deleted something by accident, it's not in your recycle bin, contact Sean at the help desk, not Sean Vitt, at your help desk, Sean Amsbury at our help desk, and we can have ROM dig that out of the site collection admin recycle bin. After that, it's gone.
Okay.
And that's a quick rundown of like the basic, how you get around the site actions, the administrative part on the back end, just a real quick run through. We'll get more specific here in a second, but any questions so far? I'm just kind of waving my hands at it right now, I feel like. We're not really doing anything fun yet.
So on users information, can you see a list of users there?
That is a lovely segue, my friend, because we're getting ready to talk about users and permissions.
Okay.
You guys want to get into it? Well, you can get the users and permissions 2 different ways. You can get in through site settings and either go to people and groups or site permissions. But there's also this option off the site actions menu to where you can see all your groups available. These are there's some out-of-the-box SharePoint groups that are available to you: approvers, designers, hierarchy managers, your members, your owners, your visitors, your restricted readers, your style resource readers. Those are out-of-the-box SharePoint groups. You might not ever use any of them. Don't delete them. Once you delete them, you can't get them back, and some of them might be needed by the system. Don't delete any groups that you get from us. If you feel the need to add new permission groups and configure those, go crazy. You know, that's very configurable. It's as easy as creating a group right here, giving it a name, giving it a level of permission, and here's one place where you can see like the level of permissions that you have, from full control to design, and it describes what each one of them has. We also have permission levels in this button here where you could actually get them again. Full control, just that's the uber godlike status that you all have, like me. The design view is one you'll probably never have users in. That's if, for instance, I guess the only example I could think of is if Brianna hired somebody to work just as a webmaster, or somebody was hired to work under Brianna as a webmaster just for like the audit site, and you wanted them to be able to like create and change the look and feel and stuff like that, you'd put them in design. And they would be able to mess with the style sheets, and they'd be able to mess with the page layouts and things like that. Second cousin of design is manage hierarchy, and that's the ability to create sites and to create, rearrange how those sites are arranged, related to each other and that sort of thing. So those two kind of go hand in hand if you need somebody in that role. Those are probably two you'll never use, though. The permission level you'll probably use on a regular basis is contribute. That's what your authors will have. That's what gives them the right to edit a page. Read is, and my favorite are read and restricted read. The only difference between those two is restricted read can't see. It's for like, it's an intranet, it's a leftover intranet permission group. If somebody is authenticated, they can go into your back end, where we're at now, and they can see your lists and libraries and things like that. And if they have restricted read, that's all they can see, is the content. If they have read, they can see later versions of things. Again, it's more of an intranet-y thing. Very rarely use it. The last one is the approve group. That sounds to me like you guys are going to be using that quite a bit. And that's like your editors. But you'll notice that right now, approvers can only edit, approve, and they can only edit and approve things. Let me read that right. They can edit and approve pages, list items, and documents. So that would be like your editing group. If you had a workflow set up of like authors to, I just lost my site, to people that aren't you, that you want to be able to approve pages, that's the group they would go into.
So they can see it, edit, and approve it, create new pages themselves.
Yeah, they would be just like an author with a little extra added oomph. The ability to publish their own stuff, basically, or somebody else's. These are the out-of-the-box permission levels. You can go in and fine-tune them. You'll see that there's just like a whole heap and helping list of things you could have them do or not do. And they all have little descriptions about them besides what they're for. I would suggest you don't delete any of the out-of-the-box ones, and you don't go in and tamper with them. You might mess up something in the system. However, you can add permission levels that are custom to You Can't See Straight.
So Bryce, we're going to have a template library. We're going to have these content managers. We want to have them have the ability to pick the template, populate it, edit it, publish it. Where do you recommend we put them?
You might want to create, is that all they're going to do? That's all they need to do?
Speaking generally, but...
They're creating pages, more or less, using the template, correct?
Yep, and editing pages, but probably we're going to want to edit one of those existing categories.
What I would do is I would create a new group.
Yeah, what would we build it on? Which one?
I'm not sure I understand the question. What would we build it on?
So you had the list there, design.
Yeah, if you modify one of these,
Yep.
contribute.
I would
Yeah.
just add a permission level, and then let's see, what all do they need to do? Will they need list permissions, site permissions? Now, list permissions, that includes, like, again, I said everything in SharePoint is a list. This will apply to libraries as well. So when they say manage lists, that means also being able to manage like your pages library or whatever document library you set up. You can go in and give them like specific edit, add, delete. Seems like some basic, will they need to approve, or are they just creating, for instance? You could get really refined about that, and I would just go through this list, figure out exactly what they need to do, manage lists so they would be able to override checkouts, you know, view pages. Again, I'm trying to give you a good answer.
Yep.
And without
Depends on our
going through every
objective.
single one of these,
Yeah,
it depends on your objective.
Their qualifications, our
Right.
workflow. But yeah, I kind of wanted other people to see that we could build, give it a name, content manager.
Yeah, Skippy the Wonder level.
Exactly.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, and for Jacqueline's sake, if you'll notice for like documentation purposes, that all these have listed exactly what the particular level
Yeah,
does.
very
So
handy, thank you.
that ought to come in handy there.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, they have huge teams of writers and editors.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a special type of access associated with sites called anonymous access. We had talked about using it to remove access if you had to. Like if you lock down you want to lock down a site for just an intranet. Right now, everything on your forward-facing site has what's called anonymous access. And what that means, any user can come in and see published content through the pages. So if you have documents that are linked, if you have images that are embedded in your site or the pages themselves, you don't have to be authenticated to see them. If it's an intranet, you don't want that. What you'll want to do is prevent them from doing it. The way you do that, you'll notice there's no anonymous access button up here right now to where you can control anonymous access on a site. The way you get to it is really convoluted in SharePoint. I'm going to open up a new incognito window so I don't authenticate my forward-facing presence. You go to your forward-facing site, but you link to one of the back-end pages, and you'll be prompted for username and password. So, Uber secret username. And suddenly, here I am on the front end staging, or the front end of the SOS site, but I can get into the back end and I'm authenticated and I've got the ribbon. And you'll notice I now have the anonymous access button. The only way to get to this that I know of. But you can go in, and I could, if I wanted to, I could suddenly turn off access to the outside world to everything. And that means anybody that comes to the site to staging SOS.Oregon.eGov.com is now, or eventually SOS.Oregon.gov, if we did it to that, they would have to know a username and password to get in.
And that's what happened when we first gave you guys the URL.
Every page.
Yeah.
Right, because we didn't turn on the anonymous access.
Yeah, and I'm not going to make any changes.
That's the only way you get to it is that convoluted trip?
Unless you're a site admin, or a site collection admin like Rom, he just gets it out of the box.
Yeah.
This is a hacky thing that's not
Yeah.
supposed to be there for me, but SharePoint is full of bugs.
Can you do that for the sub-sites as well?
You can, like, if I wanted to lock down business, I'd go to business.
Okay.
Izzy Ness, bam. I want to turn that into my intranet, and I would have to, well, first I'd have to stop inheriting permissions from my parent, and then when I can go ahead and do right now, because it's not going to change anything. Oh, that's the other thing, is like if you're managing permissions, you're set up to inherit the permissions of your parent site, so when your site's created, you get the same permission levels. If you make a change to the parent, it changes the sibling or the child. If you break inheritance like I just did, I can make a change in the parent. You keep the level of permissions you had when you break your inheritance, but if I change something in the parent now, it doesn't bubble down here. And I can lock down the whole business site now if I wanted to. But I don't like that. I'm going to make sure.
We don't need to know that unless we do an intra.
Right.
Right.
Well, you never know when you might come up with a need to like break permissions from the parent site, so, and manage stuff, and we have agencies do that all over the place. So. Any other questions about anonymous access?
No, but permissions for these roles, like contribute and
Right.
approve, can we make them, then set them at the audits level, at the different business unit levels? How do we keep zoning elections from accidentally touching archives? The way to boil down my question, because our content managers are.
I think you've just come up with a great reason for why you might want to break inheritance on all those sites.
Okay. And set them up as subsites rather than folders.
Yeah, what you would do is at this point,
Siblings.
before we break inheritance, we create a bunch of special members groups, one for each division, or one for each task folder, or I guess elections gets two, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we create a special group for each of those, then that'll bubble down to the parents. We can break inheritance, we can go in and remove the other ones from those, and then you've got those groups left over.
Yeah, because we don't want the content managers as a whole to have access to the home page.
Right.
For example, and
You only want the administration group to be able to do everything.
That's going to be
Right.
by request.
Yeah, and if the archive content managers are all on vacation, and something needs to be changed there, then the admin folks will have to do it, not
Right.
somebody from audit.
Mhm.
Unless we get them up, they tell them to log in.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's actually a good reason for why you might want to go ahead and set those up that way. Then we would break inheritance. I would suggest doing it the way I said, creating them all the permission groups you think you're going to need in the root. That way they all bubble down, break, and then remove the ones you don't need. That way they can all be administered from the root. Because if you break and then create the individual ones in business, you don't have them all in that same list in front of you. So, that's a good point.
Thank you. But you'll remember that, right?
I'm writing it down, yeah.
I'm ahead now, I'm on the next question.
That's why you're my advanced class, I'm telling you. Let's make sure I've got everything I've covered. That's pretty much the basics of permissions. I know I'm kind of glossing over this a little bit, but there's just so much we want to get to, and we've got 30 minutes left. We've definitely got to show you how to manage navigation on your site and how to manage your lists. If we do run over, you guys going to have an issue?
No.
Okay, all right.
I won't. Can I
Speak for others.
I may have to leave by like 5 or so. I've got to pick up a car at the shop, but
Okay, well, I'll try to speed through it then, so we don't
no,
leave
no
you.
worries. If I need to leave, I'll pick up one second.
We are recording it too, so that helps.
There you go.
The next item we have to talk about is how you manage your navigation, and your site has two types of navigation. You have the top navigation right here, and then if you drill down in a bit to the inside of the site, you have like the overview nav, and inside of that you have this nav, which is a mirror of the overview nav. This nav and the overview nav are controlled from a list, while this top nav is controlled from the back end of SharePoint, and I'm going to show you how to do that. If you need to control anything in the navigation, it goes under Site Actions, Site Settings, under Look and Feel, Navigation. You'll notice you'll have two types of navigation, a global navigation and a current navigation. Really poorly named things. Global navigation is what's showing up on your website. This is your global navigation. Your current navigation is what's showing up on your back end. That's this navigation. And actually this navigation too. Yeah. You can control the order of things in your global navigation here, your current navigation here. You'll notice like whenever I create a new list, you could have it added to your current navigation so it shows up in the back for easily navigating through those items. If you create a new site, you automatically get it here. However, you'll notice we have only a limited amount of room in your navigation. So if you create a new site, you'll want to come in, highlight it, and click Hide. and so it doesn't show up in your main navigation.
Is that how we get to experiment?
Yeah, when that sucker looks broke, you know somebody's added something.
Boy.
Let me turn that back to show. You also can control the order of how things appear by moving it down and up. There are 2 SharePoint sites you get out of the box called Press Releases and Search. We never use those. I know of no reason why you can't delete them, but they're not hurting anything. We just hide them and let them hang out. Nobody ever sees them. Nobody ever uses them. You have the option of showing pages in your navigation if you want, but again, you have a limited amount of space, so you would have to go in and hide all those. However, in your current navigation, if you want to have your site pages available, that's up to you, and I'll let you all decide if you want to configure it or not, so that when I click OK, all the pages are also showing up over here as well.
How did you get into that view?
It is Site Actions, Site Settings, and under Look and Feel, the very bottom link is Navigation. You're actually there now.
Look at this.
Yeah, Navigation. There you go. You could have it sorted automatically, which I think does it by alphabet, but of course you want to do it manually, so you can control the order of which things appear. And for some strange reason, you'll notice in the Site Actions menu, when you're editing a page, there's an option to show or hide your ribbon. If for some reason you don't want people to be able to pull up the ribbon automatically, or pull up the ribbon on demand, if you only want it to show up when they're editing a page, you can click no. But it really serves no purpose as far as I'm concerned. So when you drill down into sites, you can control the inheritance of your global navigation. If you, for some reason, are in a site that needs to have its own navigation and not the parent's, you can configure it here to display the same navigation as the parent site or items below, current and below. Since this is the root, it's current and below. If we went into business, this would be inherit from the parent. We would break it, we would change that at this point. Each sub-site has one of these. So each sub-site has its own site setting. So if I go into business, there's a site settings page where if it needs to have its own navigation, I'd go in here, I'd tell it, quit looking at the parent, look at what I'm putting down here, and use that.
Set it in your,
Right. And
I think you did that with Archive.
did that with Archives, and we did something, wait, before I say that, no, we didn't. Archives has inherits from the parent as well. But just going to show you this other site that I'm working on, just so you can kind of see how it is. This is the Oregon Investment Board. This is another site we're currently building, and right now it's just, this is the global navigation, and we have gone in and we're showing the subsites, we're showing the pages, but we've created these headings that we've arbitrarily created by using the add heading that we organized the different pages into. So you could get kind of crafty with drop-down menus and stuff like that. You'd have to, you know.
And those don't actually go anywhere, they're just headings to the menu?
Actually, these particular ones are configured to go to the root right now. These will eventually go somewhere on this site, but they don't have to. They could be just like triggering, just like containers, or they can be links as well. And I just wanted to show you that there are options for how you could use this.
Are you working with Alex Pulaski?
No. Seth? What is Seth's last name? I don't remember Seth's last name. Seth Allen, yes. Yes, I am working with him at the moment. Let's see, and that's it for like your global navigation. And your, I need to find where I'm authenticated. There we go. In the root site, there's a list called Overview Navigation. And that is every item that's on the overview page, and any overview page on your site or within your left nav. So this is where all that navigation is configured.
And you can edit from there.
Right, and I will leave this as an exercise for the students. No. Let's just take a look at the fields that you have. You have a title. You have the link that shows up. For those things that are on the overview page, you want to give it, this is where you give it a short description. It's right now Lorem Ipsum. It won't show up in the left nav, but it will show up on the overview page. You could tell it what category it belongs to, in other words, which sub-site it's going to show up in. These are configurable from another list if you need to add. Like you'll notice employment and contracting have their own, because they're going to have their own little sub-menu as well. You could apply a sort order for which order it's going to show up in that list. And right now we don't have icons, but eventually, oh, there are icons, but not those. You'll be able to assign icons to it. And it looks like an overwhelming list, but you can go in and you can filter. Like if I only want to see business stuff, it becomes a lot more manageable when you filter it. So now I see all the business navigation links in all the sort order. And if I want number 9 to be number 1, I can go in, and you have to edit each item because the sort order is not automatic. But I could change number 9 to number 0, or I could change number 9 to number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You still can go in and add and use the whole numbers to manage what sort order it's going to show up in. Things with the same sort order then become alphabetic. Need to edit a current item, like if I decide I've had enough of lorem ipsum, click edit, go in there, give it its new short description, click save, and it shows up on the site. And you can filter and control your navigation hopefully easily, and you're not cursing me for it. Any questions about left nav, overview nav, or top nav? Cool. Aw, now you're embarrassing me. Oh, come on, more. If you find that you are ever adding sites that or categories that need to have their own left overview nav, yeah, there's that pulls from a list here in categories like we do that, adds to that list. We go back here, go to create a new item. My cool category is now potentially someplace to fix something. Again, why do I keep looking at the screen up there when I can look right here? But I decided I don't like my cool category. I'm going to delete it. Boink. And again, if I decide I want it back, it's in the recycle bin. My cool category. Everything gets recycled. Let's see. All right, we're about to dive into some of the other lists where the real fun of your site starts to occur. Site actions, view all site content. Let's talk about the featured homepage links first. That is the list that controls these items. I'm sorry, featured homepage list, these items. I was testing you. Good job. Basically, there are just a few fields you need. You'll need the title. Oh, something I wanted to tell you. Whenever you see title and link together, give title and link the same text. I think I pull in just link text to be safe, but sometimes I might pull in title link because I made a mistake and wasn't consistent. So title, the link of where the link is supposed to go, the little featured description, that's that small tagline. It has to stay small. You can tell it whether to display or not, so everything on the list doesn't have to show up on your home page. Right. You give it a sort order, and eventually, again, you'll be able to give it an icon when we have all the icons straightened out. And there will be an icon list where you'll manage that. When you create it, it's going to show up, of course, on the side. If you want to change the order of things, same thing, sort order, you want it not to show up, editing gets fairly easy. How you got it on the page, that's the real fun. We drop it in with a content query web part. And the way you add a content query web part is whenever you shouldn't have to do this for anything unless you create a new page, but I'm just going to walk you through it so you see how each one of them is configured. But insert web part, content rollup, content query, add, and that adds a content query web part onto the page. We don't want to actually add one onto this page. We just want to look and see how these are configured as we go along. Just so you get an idea, you might get ideas on how you want to use them yourself. Whenever you mouse over the title of a content query web part, or any web part, you'll get a menu that's where you can minimize it, which means it collapses and you don't see it. What's the purpose of having it on the page if you don't see it? You can delete it. Don't panic if you do. We could always put another one back on. Or we can edit it, which is what we wanted to do here. What we've done is we've pointed this at that homepage links list. We have gone in and told it we want to, we filtered only for items that are set to display yes, and all of the fields in that list are available to you. Actually, let me drill that down specifically to list content types and items. So everything, every field that's associated with that list, even the ones that you get out of the box are there, and we could filter on any of those. But since we've set up the display item, that's what we're using. You could have up to 3 filters on a content query web part. You could decide how it's going to be presented. Grouping and sorting, we don't really do any grouping on any of our content query web parts that we use here. Doesn't mean you can't. We might have to have special configurations.
All just kind of flat.
Just kind of flat, yeah. Number of columns is part of the grouping. We sort order on almost all of these, so you can declare how they go ascending. The featured links configured currently to show only 5. Things like your navigation, we've not limited the number, so you could have unlimited links. Things like your online services, we've limited to 6. That's totally configurable by however many you guys want to add or delete. When it comes to assigning the styles, this is the item style is what you're concerned with. All of these top down to image on left nav and above are the custom ones created just for you guys, and these are the ones that are going to apply to all the data you're dropping in with the content query web part. Homepage carousel, of course, is the one that controls your homepage. Featured online services is the one that controls your online services. Your overview, that's what controls your overview pages. Records nav, that's where we pull in your the navigation on that special records page in the archive. Records items is what lists those out. The accordion is the content query web part that drops the style for your accordions, and your left nav is your left nav.
Are these pulling from a CSS style sheet somewhere?
This is an XSL style sheet for when you get brave.
Oh.
And you want to go in and have some real fun. And
Well, and the carousel, that might be something we'd want to use elsewhere, since we have the archives tour, which is now, I don't know how many pages.
a lot.
A lot of pages. It could be boiled down into photos with some text in one page. So carousel, is that one of the components that?
It's one that I've created. It's basically, if we're in the Bootstrap framework, it drops the Bootstrap carousel HTML on the page. So you could use that and a copy of that same list to create whatever carousel you need.
So we could modify the
Change your images and text. Yeah.
Okay.
And the rest you might need a little special tweaking through CSS for that particular page, but you should be able to do it. Or we could create some custom
Yeah,
artwork.
it's going to have some fun.
When you set one of these item styles, you're going to get a series of different boxes down here. In the XSL, there's a field called title, caption, link, and icon for this particular item style. And you have to tell it which of the fields from your list it applies to. Like there's the title field in the featured links list that is mapped in automatically. The rest of these, your caption is that feature description part of the list. Your link is the column feature link, and then the feature icon, which there is none right now, but it's there in case we eventually make icons for you. One other thing, when you're adding content query web parts, set your Chrome to none. If you don't, that little blue heading and everything like that is going to be visible to the public. Don't do that. And it's probably good practice to give them some meaningful title as well.
The web part?
The web part, yeah, which you'll notice in the left nav, I really haven't.
Thank
Really
you.
neat. But but when it comes to like the ones that drop the accordions on, the accordions are you'll see in a minute are sorted by keywords. I've changed the title to be keyword equals whatever the keyword is that's using, so you don't have to actually open it up and see what keyword is on a page. If I wanted to go into the list then and manage the items for that. So I don't, it's just an easy reference point. Probably one of the more common web parts you'll also use coming down the line is a content editor web part. SharePoint's a really good content editor, except you can't do things like drop JavaScript onto the page. You can't drop Flash or objects or anything like that. SharePoint will strip it out. So what you do is you create a text file with your HTML in it, you upload it to a document library, you drop a content editor web part on your page, and you point to that text file, and it pulls it into the page as if it was part of the page itself. So the reason it does that is because the way .NET works, if you have JavaScript and stuff that collides or objects that collide with the function of the actual page, you can break the page and lock up your site. So if it's in a text file somewhere, all you have to do is go and edit that text file. You don't actually have to go to the page if it's locked up. You can fix things without having to go to the page. However, when you point that content editor web part to that text file, it doesn't remember the link. You'll see a field like this. It won't even have a browse button. You paste your link into that text file. You'll just have to know what it is and click OK. And when you open it up again, it's gone. So if you have enough of those, you tend to forget where they are. So what I counsel people to do is like, well, go in here to your title, since it's not going to be showing up on your page, and paste your URL in there as well. So you always know where that content editor part is pointing. I'm telling you, they don't make anything easy here. And let me cancel out of this. But that's basically everything you need to know about the featured links.
And this is 2010.
2010, yes.
We're not going to 2015, correct? We can stay in.
Not right now.
I don't know there's plans anytime soon to do that. Featured links, the online services. Eventually, you'll notice there's a lot more online services than what's showing up on your home page. Eventually, there's going to be a page of just online services. As soon as we get them all together, I don't know if I have them all yet. I have just a few that are, what's the ones you sent me, the ones that require, applications, right? Anything that you guys consider an online service could eventually be added to this list. You'll notice it's got the fields title, service link, service icon, again, no icons yet, is featured, and the order for if it is featured. Let me pull that over so you can actually see it. This is where you control whether it shows up on the home page or not as the is featured. Yes, of course, it shows up on the home page, and the order tells you what order it shows up in. If I go ahead and set Oregon referral list, for instance, yes, though, the web part is currently configured to only show 6 items. So sort order 1 through 6 is going to show, 7's not. If I set it to item 0, which is the lowest number I can assign it, then it'll show up and number 6 gets dropped off, unless you guys decide to up the limit. But since I'm pressed for time, I'm not going to go in and show you. You feel pretty comfortable about how to admin this list. Jacqueline figured it out. She'll show you. I love my fans team here. Homepage carousel. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just so you know, I did not modify the file name.
Oh, one thing I did want to show you about online, lists in general. If you go into the ribbon and you click the list tab under list tools, you'll have this thing called views. And you'll notice right now you're under a view called view all items. Suppose I wanted to create like a very specific view of just what's showing up on the home page. I give it the name. I can make this the default view if I want. I don't. I think I'd rather keep the all for the default view. I can make this view personal, so it's only for me, or I can make it public to where everybody can see it. So that's something to keep in mind too. If you have a certain way you want to see content that it's probably just going to ever apply to anything you do, you can go ahead and create a view of how the items in the list are showing. You can change the order in which things are showing. We never really use attachments. There's no need to have that there. I really think maybe the icon needs to be the second item right after the title. It just makes sense to me. You could have it sorted in any order you want, like ascending, or let's just do it by sort order. Just makes sense, right? Featured sort order, ascending, and then I want to filter on certain items. Show only these. Is featured is equal to yes. And there's other cool things you can do down here if you want, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly I have a view of just my homepage items. And now that's there for everybody whenever you guys come back. Or if you just want to see all of them again, bam, there it is. So this comes in handy, like on Business Express, it's come in handy in that we have a view, everything comes from one list. All the links on the site come from one list, including the featured content, the little stuff at the top of each section. We've gone in and created views of like the infographics, for instance. So all I have to do is pull up all the links that are associated with infographics. If I'm changing out the infographics like we're doing right now, we're updating them. I don't have to wade through like 400 items. I just pull up the 6 things I need, or the 7 things I need, 6 things I need, 5 things I need, 7 things I need. I was testing. Good job.
Nothing gets tested.
The homepage carousel list, again, title, image, just to show you when you if you go in and create a new item, you have the image. SharePoint doesn't have a browse button, so make sure you go into your document library, your images library, and copy it out if you want.
Say that again?
SharePoint, for some reason, will not give you a browse button for like uploading an image. You have to know the URL for it, and you have to type in the description.
Just like it was cool for years at Microsoft still to use the command prompt and access everything to docs, even though we had a user interface for years. Yeah, it's got to work for it. UI is for me.
The item heading field, that's your item heading field right there. Your item caption field, that's the item caption field. The item link, where it links to, that's where you add it, and the description. Sort order, again, you could have all sorts of featured items on here, and you could tell it to display or not display, so you could have some seasonal things that you only want to use at certain times, like say about voting or something, yeah.
Retire it, but keep it there.
And I will give you the dimensions of these images before you get rolling, so you'll be able to create your own. Again, I'm trying to get us all wedged in here. Any other questions before we roll on?
Are you going to be offering like a 2 or 3 day SharePoint intensive, or we can sit here and immerse ourselves in your
Usually I'm available for phone calls, so. Yeah.
Usually, you have to call if you can get past me.
Always make room for the nice SOS people. Icon types is eventually where you'll control your
icon.
icons.
Cell phone number, and we can get past Sean that way.
The last list that's not populated yet because we don't actually have icons yet is the icon type. And it'll be just literally, there'll be a text word associated with the icon and the icon image itself. The image is just there for reference. The title is what's important. That's the part that's going to become the CSS class that gets added to all these things. And then it'll be up to you, Ms. Webmaster, that if there's a new image or a new something that needs to be updated, that's all going to be on the style sheet, and you'll have to make sure that this class is assigned from the CSS. And we'll fix it, too, to where people will actually be able to use the cool little drop-down menu when they edit, that they can highlight something and select and add an icon to an item if they need to as well. Just one other kind of list to worry about, and that's the accordion list. And that's where the real fun is actually happening, I guess, on the site. Let me discard checkout. And this is the one I had to hack together because, for some reason, I worked in accordion into design on every single page. Accordions require special HTML, and, well, we all know the horrors of it. Let's dig into business. Each site has, when it loads, did my site suddenly break?
Oh, darn internet connection.
Yeah, it goes in and out here.
Oh.
Yeah. Something about this room, it's like the
I ain't afraid.
Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
What the heck did I do? Discard checkout. Let me make sure I did that again. Bam.
That's what you do,
Oh.
just put a check out.
Drill down. Here's your happy everyday run-of-the-mill accordion. You've got the ones that have sub-content. You have the ones that actually go somewhere and do something else. Just go away. Tired of you.
That discard checkout is a good thing to remember. If you're working on a page and you totally mess it up, to just discard and then it's
Start over.
Start over, yeah.
Or start from the last place you saved.
Yeah, I love that button.
Discard checkout is your friend.
Yeah.
I didn't need to click that, but if I'm in the business section, and if I go to its view all site content, first thing you'll notice is there's much fewer choices here. Your documents, your images, your pages, and there's this business task accordions. Every accordion on the business site is in this list. And that's really quick and easy to understand. Look how clear that you guys got this down, right?
Yeah.
Piece of cake. I'm going to show you what I was talking about here in a minute. Right now we're looking at the register page. Notice how I've given it the tag equal register here. So I know when I look at this list, I've got a category here called tags. Everything called register is associated with that particular web part. When I've configured the web part under that filtering, I've asked for everything that contains, all the tags that contain the word register. These are common delimited. You can give them as many tags as you want. So you could have the same piece of content show up in several different locations if you need to. Right. Now, but at least it's all managed from one spot this time.
Yeah, that's rather nice.
Now, if I wanted to see just register, just the items under register, it suddenly becomes a lot more manageable. There's my 3 items. 1, 2, 3. When you, now these are kind of special in when you create a new item. If you're adding something, of course, title, the link to where it goes to, again, you've got the text part, make it match the title. You'll notice in the description here, I've tried to make it as hopefully easy as possible, complete A or B or not both. You've got 1 labeled A and 2 labeled B. If it's A and it's the link, that means it's one of these types, which just goes straight somewhere. Yeah. And the other one has content. Now, if it has content, it's going to have a hash. It's going to have the content, which is this is an HTML editable region. That is, you'll get when you get into authoring pages. It's just like this. You author it here. You get a hashtag that becomes part of your URL. So, like this would be register.esps hashtag whatever if I added it to the register page. And the way it's supposed to work when the JavaScript is working right is if somebody goes to that URL, that item's automatically expanded. Just an anchor link. That way they don't have to worry about, you can give a link directly to pieces of information expanded already. Get you right there. Tags, these are all whatever you want to generate them, whatever you want them to be. Like I said, you could have many of them. I think there's 1 or 2 on here that might actually show up in a different place. There was something in archives I think we wanted to show up under. Oh, it's Blue Book. We wanted to show up in a couple of places.
Right. Have its own quick link and then one underneath culture and history.
And sort order. That's just so you can see this bad boy in action. If you forget and sorry, I can't build too much logic into this code. If you forget and you give something a link, even if you've got content, it's not going to the page. It's not going to be. It's going to be on the page. It's going to be hidden, and there's going to be no way to trigger it because if the XSL sees that it's a link, it's assuming it's a direct link to something, and that's just a copy of. So you guys can see the actual fun in action. And that's actually the most important thing for you guys is to know how to manage your list. And I know I'm going through this fast, and there'll be some questions. filtered. And each site has their own accordions list, and you'll notice also that if you need to create a new site and you need an accordion list for it, I've created a template, so you don't have to recreate the list over. You just create your list from there. I'm sorry that's so janky. I really feel like I need to apologize for it. Never should have made the design. I apologize.
Janky?
It's to me it's janky. If I want to edit a page, I don't want to have to come to the list and add the content. I want to be on the page and do it, and I couldn't think of any other way to do it. Not without being a .NET developer, which I am not. So, we have time to talk about workflows. It's 4:35 now.
I have time.
Okay, all right, let's go through them real quick. As I had mentioned previously, workflows really work for approving things only on the Pages document library. If you put a page to a workflow and it gets approved, then it goes live. That's the only, in a publishing site, of which if you go into site content, page layouts, and site templates, you'll see there's all sorts of different SharePoint sites. Most of those are intranet sites. Publishing and publishing workflow are the ones for forward-facing sites, like the SOS site is. There's also a never be tempted by the blog site template. Never be tempted by the wiki. Both of those are crap, pure crap. Don't use them.
Okay.
WordPress is your god. I've got a page checked out. Okay. If I want to, I've currently turned off workflow on staging for all the Pages libraries. I highly recommend you do that, or it's going to be a huge pain. You better either that, or you're just going to have your approval process in place, and it's going to go a lot slower to
Turn it off for staging, and then once it's published, turn it on.
turn it on, right? If you need to add a workflow settings, add a workflow, of course. The workflow settings let you see if there's any existing workflows. They show right here. You can manage them, see what tasks are associated with them, et cetera, et cetera. Add a workflow. You could add it on, in SharePoint there's these things called content types. Basically, SharePoint, if you create a new folder under Pages, you could make a workflow for that. The two content types you mostly deal with are welcome pages and article pages. Welcome pages are the home page and the overview pages. Article pages is everything else. That's the one you'll probably have the most. Just make it for all. There's different types of workflows. Disposition approval, you'll never use that. Collection of signatures, you'll never use that. Collect feedback, you'll never use that. Publishing approval, that's the one you really care. Give it a name. Take the defaults out of the box. You can tell it, start this workflow whenever you start this workflow to approve publishing a major version of an item. You'll notice these two are mutually exclusive. Well, actually, this one is actually these two together. You could also set it to just start a workflow when a new item's created or new item's changed. This basically says both of those. So anytime you edit something or you mess with something, you're creating a new workflow. Allows workflow to be manually started by the user. You definitely want that. This is where you add in who approves. Approvers was our group. You could also add in individuals, like maybe bfield@egov.com wants to see everything you do and sign off on it. Don't mess up. I'm handing you a Cadillac. Don't turn it into a Chevelle. You've got two different kind of approval processes. There's the one at a time, so if you have a bunch of people in approval and me, it goes to each one individually to get approved, or you can send it all at once. You could also add another level onto it. Suppose I want those people to see it, then I want somebody else to see it, you could add a new stage. So after all they approve, it goes to another group. Yeah, you can filter up. Basically, this says everybody's going to get emailed about it. Here's a new page, approve it, your message that gets sent to them. If for some reason it's a custom workflow that applies to something that has a due date, like you got a special project, you could add that in there. Duration per task, this is how many days, hours, months, weeks you're giving them to reply. Or days, weeks, months, excuse me, like I'll give you 3 days to reply before I yell at you. For some reason, I just want to CC Jacqueline on there. I can like enter her information.
Fill my inbox, see that way.
And this is some other decision. It automatically reject the document if it's rejected by any participant. If you've got several approvers, I think that would be the case. If somebody says something needs to be fixed, well, I'd keep having everybody go through with it. Automatically reject the document if it's changed before the workflow is completed. If I decide to go and make some more edits, you don't want to approve something I haven't already done. Start it all over. Update the approval status. This is the one that's key. This is the one that doesn't work on documents. So approving the thing through workflow publishes it, basically, approves it. This is only works on pages. Right. Everybody approves it. It gets the content approval, the content publication status gets switched to approved, which is a different kind of approved than workflow approved. I'm going to cancel this because we don't save it. But you save. You didn't have a workflow on your item on your pages library. It would show up here, and everything's ready to go. So every time anybody creates a new page at that point and they don't have publishing rights, they'll, instead of seeing a publish button when they edit the page, they'll see a submit button, and that submits it to the approvers. Awfully quick. I'll probably have specific questions when it gets down to it. Workflows is the thing that people have their hardest time wrapping their head around. I'm still not a master at them. Like I just learned not that long ago that you can't set up workflow on documents in a publishing site. It's just pages. Threw me for a loop. Why would they do that? I don't know. And that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for workflow. I'm sorry, it's so rushed here at the end.
Well, and we're not going to disappear. I mean, you know,
Well,
Mike
I
did a
am.
great job.
You're going to be around for a few years.
So we're going to be here to support.
Yeah.
You know.
Whoopi Goldberg line, I've been through your life.
And these next couple of topics, I guess, is specifically for you, the webmaster. So you guys can just play along at home if you want. One quick way to navigate through everything is this little up button here. I can go straight back to the root. Whoop. There are some things you need to know, like how to find your style sheets in your JavaScript and stuff like that. We've already talked about the site collection images. Branding is where all the branding images are kept. You'll notice I put the carousel images under publishing images. You might want to change that. That's totally up to you. Just let me know so we can adjust the XSL, or you could try it yourself. It'll be fun. See. There is, most of the files you're going to be concerned with are in the style library. The three that you will be concerned with is CSS, JS, and XSL style sheets. These other things are kind of useless as far as I'm concerned. This is system CSS under ENUS. We don't care about that. Here we have the two style sheets that are used on your site. SharePoint Reset is a style sheet that only shows up in authoring, and it tries SharePoint in its infinite wisdom has this style sheet called Core CSS that it forces on you in authoring. And they make a lot of assumptions about what your styles are going to be like. And SharePoint Reset.css is a noble attempt to override a lot of that. It's not complete. Like you'll notice sometimes when you're editing, link colors might be a little different in authoring than they are in production. So that's what that style sheet is. SOS is the actual style sheet that gets served up all over. Now, I'm using Bootstrap, which uses less, if you're not familiar with less. Well, these are options that you have. Right now, this, if you'll look at it, is a minified style sheet to save download time. I can include the full style sheet as well. I could just turn the less files over to you, so you'll have them all at your disposal if you want to learn to use less and have less compiler locally and create your own CSS and have it minify it for you. Or if you just want me to just put the actual CSS out there, non-minified. That's totally up to you. We could talk about your choices. But, yeah, I'm sure you don't want to have to pick out something out of this mess.
God, no.
No.
So is SharePoint stripping all the, making the file as small as possible, sucking out all the spaces?
No, that is less than this tool actually that I'm using, CodeKit. It does the minifying for me.
Does
Or
that
you could,
expand it as well?
No.
No, is there something that will automatically expand that?
There are sites that you can take and paste it into. But what I've done for people in the past is we've also given them like the full CSS that they can edit, and they can go out to like a their own site that will minify it, and then take the minify it and copy it and paste it into the actual one that's being pulled in. JavaScript, Bootstrap. This is all the out-of-the-box Bootstrap JavaScript. Basically, what we're using on the site is Collapse. That's the one that powers your accordion. There's one for effects or something like that.
Bouncy mouse over the
Yeah,
homepage.
I'll give you a list of the three we actually use out of here. There is the vendor one. There is Modernizer, which if you want to do some of your fancy own JavaScripting yourself and detect for like features and stuff like that, Modernizer is a good tool to have and make sure it's on all our sites. This jQuery Min is a local copy. We try to hit the CDN version first at Google, and if it's not available, we document write this one in. See, document write does have a purpose. Very rarely. And then there's the SharePoint reset. SharePoint, again, does this really cool little thing where it tries to, it just does some weird stuff on the back end and the front end where it tries to take away your scroll bar and do scrolling automatically. And SharePoint reset basically overrides that function. You'll never have to touch it. And SOS is where all the cool stuff is that controls, where I've actually taken the Business Express carousel JavaScript. All your JavaScript is in there. That's not minified yet. My plan is to do it to save space, unless you want me to just leave it as is and then provide the files in an alternate manner.
Probably not going to mess with the JavaScript, I would assume.
Okay.
The only JavaScript, anything I'm going to be doing, at least in the near future, would be adding Google Analytics.
Okay.
But
All
I'll
right.
talk to PJ about how we go about doing that.
We'll drop it into the master page. It'll be fun.
Better.
And that way it shows up on every page. Now, if you're really brave, this is your XSL stuff. Content query main, item style, that's where you do it. Be careful. One misspaced semicolon doesn't break just what you're working on, it breaks everything. So everything that uses the content query web part suddenly tells you that it's broken. So that's everything on your site. So make sure before you publish that everything's cool. SharePoint Designer, I can give you a personal, personal time later to show you how to download it and log in with it.
I got it downloaded at home, did that, and then I've got a Wicked course queued. So I'll start with that, and then I'll text you.
Well, here, if you go to staging, if you go to this URL, the forward-facing site, put it in there, you should be able to access the site. It's your same username and password. Should come up. You'll see stuff, and we can go over what that is later. I'm sorry to be so rushed there at the end again. I know everybody's got places to be, things to do, and rather than listen to me. Any questions? I'm sure you'll have them, except you're my advanced class.
And you've got this captured in ReadyTalk.
Got it captured in ReadyTalk, and I'm here again because, me just waving my hands through it is one thing. When you start using it, you'll forget everything I tell
Particularly
you.
the list,
Yeah.
that interface.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of content to write for the site.
Yeah.
Static content is what
It was fun.
This is fun.
Alrighty, I'm shutting her down then.
Okay, thanks so much.
Are you sure?
Thank you. Please stand by.